Okay, you're live.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Scottsdale Environmental Advisory Commission's monthly meeting that is being held both virtually and in person today on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. My name is Natalie Chrisman-Lazar, and I'm your chair. It's about 5:31, and I call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Chair Chrisman-Lazar.
Present.
Vice Chair Coletta.
Present.
Commission members David Abranovich.
Present.
Commissioner Bassi.
Present.
Commissioner Kukulik. Not answering. Commissioner Johnson
Here.
and Commissioner Schlosser.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great, great. We have our agenda. It is the first thing on there out after roll call is that we are accepting public comments, but we have no public comments submitted in advance, do we?
That's correct, Chair. We have none.
Great, great. In terms of our next item, the approval of the regular meeting minutes is our first item on the agenda. Tammy Bossy submitted a couple proposed changes. Tammy, you want to go over those? Just in general, what your overview? I know you're driving, so.
Yes, and I emailed Sam and Anthony and Tim those, and I actually have them printed out, and I'll be there, and I'm almost there, so you can either table it or someone else can read them.
Can we table?
Yes, I'd say this is table.
Okay, we will table that and move on to the next agenda item here. If I can get to the right screen. Our next agenda item is a presentation, discussion, and possible commission recommendation letter regarding our pollinators, our plant pollinators. So if we wanted to go ahead and give an update. Ryan, are you still on? Can you give us a little bit of an update on where we're at?
I can. It's going to be very brief. And by the way, I can only stay for about 30 minutes here. So a couple of things are happening simultaneously. The first thing I'm pleased to say happened today, or at least I was informed of it today, is that the fire department page, the content regarding bees has been revised. It's been revised away from sort of an ominous bees are dangerous idea to more of a bees are pollinators, and the bees are very helpful. And then the final paragraph of that page indicates that we recommend, as a city, we recommend humane removal of hives, and that, yeah, thanks for highlighting it, and that most phone calls might unassumingly be to exterminators. So just would urge people, of course, citizens and others, to pay attention to if they have a beehive or a bee swarm, to try to call a humane bee removal, not a bee killing service, which would be an exterminator. The second item is there's some material being prepared for the Sustainable Scottsdale pages. Kelly Corsett indicated that they are reviewing what's been submitted. Steve Schlosser, the chair, Natalie Chrisman-Lazar, and myself have been communicating about this in the last month, and I would expect Kelly Corsett to communicate when that material is ready for review. And then finally, the third thing, which I do not have an update on, is that I am studying the Bee City USA requirements. I think Chair Chrisman-Lazar told me that according to their map, we could be the first city in the state to be a Bee City USA designated city. Before we make a recommendation, or before any of us proposes a recommendation to the council, I think we need to study what that means, what's required in order for that designation to occur. So that's a quick update. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thanks for that, Ryan. So in terms of when you think that maybe by the next meeting, you would be able to tell us a little bit more about what's required for Bee City?
I will make that commitment, Chair. Thank you.
That'd be great. I do want to note, Rachel Smetana is here present, and she forwarded me a document that indicates that we are, as a city, have taken the Monarch Pledge, which is basically, a pledge to become a pollinator promoting city, specifically with habitat for monarchs. And, it is something that the city has already pledged to do. And I think that as we talk about this new page on Scottsdale, Sustainable Scottsdale, it may be useful to branch it out a little bit and make certain that we're not just dealing with bees, and actually acknowledge other pollinators as well, and maybe be able to highlight that pledge if we could. I know that it's been reported in other portions probably of city announcements, but it would be nice to kind of tie them all together. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that is.
Yeah, Chair, this is Ryan Johnson again. I'm totally supportive of that. And by all means, no pride of authorship or pride of ideas. If other people have ways to improve, I'm completely supportive of the idea of pollinators in general, not just bees. I think I shared 2 meetings ago a personal situation that I had. So it's really the genesis of this. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll definitely give that feedback to Mr. Corsett, our communications person, to kind of make certain that we include that and that scope in the article that we put on Sustainable Scottsdale. Outside of that,
Lazar,
yes.
Chair Lazar, this is Commissioner Schlosser. I have my hand raised.
Sorry.
I know it's hard to see in the circumstances. I think it would also be valuable if we could, as a group or individually, identify pollinator or bee rescuers as opposed to exterminators. I mean, if we can identify a subset of the companies that would, remove hives and not destroy them, we could amend the Sustainable Scottsdale page to suggest that these might be, organizations to contact when, presented with a bee problem. And similarly provide that to the 911 group that responds to emergency calls when someone calls in and says there's this beehive and it's all over the place and blah, blah, blah. At least we can provide an option for the caller to call a non exterminator organization that might be able to capture the hive and move it to a safer area.
Chair Lazar, and also Commissioner Schlosser, what I would suggest is that we continue to look at the webpage that Chandler provides. It's a very good example of how to get people directed to the actual providers that are doing the, I guess I'd say non-violent, but more humane.
Relocation.
Yes, relocations. And that way, the city is not prepared to be able to recommend anyone. If we were doing that, it would become a problem with our procurement agency. So I think that the way that Chandler has handled it is very, very well done. And so possibly we asked Kelly Corsett to mirror that page somehow and see what he could do.
We can provide it definitely as a resource. And I agree with Mr. Schlosser that just the premise of providing resources, not necessarily specific, companies. And I think that's where the shift is, right? We cannot recommend specific companies, but if we can give people resources to those types of organizations, that would be great.
No, it's correct. And actually the Chandler site, if you go out and look, when you click on their link about that, it takes you out to a Google webpage that basically has all the different providers that have that service. So I think that would be a way to go. Definitely.
Okay, definitely. We'll make that as another recommendation when we speak with Mr. Corsett. I did want to touch on another item that Mr. Schlosser brought up previously, regarding some of our practices within Scottsdale. And I know, Sam, you did some research in terms of some of the ways that we have, some of the limitations that the city has in terms of what we can do in terms of addressing bees on city property.
Commissioner Natalie, this is Walter Kukulik. I just wanted to let you know that I joined.
Oh, thank you.
I had a technical difficulty. My apologies.
Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you, Chair. This is Sam Brown. The research I've done on bee removal is complicated somewhat by based on Parks and Rec's experience. They used to have a humane bee removal service, but the response time became 2 to 4 days, and that just became untenable. The high demand placed on them by the city, just the myriad of calls, the high volume of calls, the services, which are usually 1 or 2 people operations, could not keep up with that. And in the case of bee removal, a lot of situations are public or human safety issues. And so it's very difficult to recommend those services without a list of caveats about safety and trying to evaluate the threat to people and their pets and their children that perhaps a hive or a swarm represents. So that was basically the reason Parks and Rec moved away from trying to go that service, is they could not keep up. And we were more concerned with the public safety aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. I was under the impression also just the type of procurement process that may have been utilized at that particular time. I mean, you know, if you have more depth in your procurement, if you had that as an issue in terms of not having service in a quick enough fashion, it is something that, I mean, I would definitely be a proponent of. If you could, as you put something out to bid, you can identify, hey, I have 5 providers or 10 providers if you needed it. But the only way that you're going to, I think, make a change in the number of providers is to actually have the volume of service that something like a city organization that can provide. So, you know, the premise of having the city, you know, have a go-to, I get that maybe they weren't getting the greatest service at that particular time, but you had something more?
This is Sam again. You know, one other aspect of that, when you're thinking along those terms of the city's self-insurance requirements, which these very small operations, and there are not a lot of them out there. If you look at it geographically, they're pretty widespread. So you don't have a competitive market per se, and you don't have the size and the ability to typically to provide the level of insurance that the city would require of any contract.
Mm-hmm. Is there, Ms. Bossy, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Chair Christmas Lazar, Tammy Bossy. Thank you, Sam, for that additional research. That's very helpful. And certainly we need to be concerned about liability. To Chair Christmas Lazar's point, I think that's where we that's where we come in as far as leadership and recommendations, because we obviously have identified a very core challenge with trying to take care of this a little differently. And you very well articulated that. So I think often what government entities would do then would be look at the issue and figure out how to solve it. And I think you mentioned that, you alluded to that as far as our procurement requirements. So possibly we look at our procurement and our contracting, maybe that's a better word in this case, our contracting requirements, and that we require companies to have a different type of bee removal, a humane type of bee removal before we hire them as the city. And I think once we add that demand to these companies, it will also help them relook at some of their practices as well, and accommodate. Because if we don't have the bees, we are all not here. So the biggest threat to all of us is not having the bees. And certainly that is not to diminish in any way somebody worried about a bee. I remember we were at actually a religious service on a river, and bees came, and my nephew was freaking out because he's allergic. So I certainly am very sensitive to that concern. But I do think that we can look at the issues, and thanks again for getting that additional information, because I think that's in general what we face all the time when we're looking at how do we move all of our systems and practices into a more sustainable way of doing business. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, I saw that you had your hand up there for a second. Did you have anything else to add?
No, in the interest of time, I'll forego. I think my comments have been captured by you, Tammy, and others. Thank you. And Sam, thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're continuing to progress this. I do believe that we are going to get to the point where we're going to need to prepare a recommendation and a letter to council, basically talking about pollinators and some of the efforts that we're doing. And I'm just putting it out there as a request. Is anyone interested in starting to develop a draft of that recommendation letter so that we can have something to perhaps by next meeting to start to look at? Somebody has their hand. Mr. Johnson has his hand up.
Hi again. Yeah. Well, I've already agreed that I would do some research on Bee City USA, and I'm not going to presuppose that that's going to be a good fit. I'm going to do the research, but I'm happy to work on that, Natalie. And if anybody wants to come along, please have them contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we have any further discussion regarding pollinators and or bees? Ms. Tammy?
Thank you, Chair Lazar, Tammy Bossy. Just one more is just thank you so much for the work on that, and for Commissioner Johnson to bringing that to our attention. And what amazing response. Oh, don't hold it. Oh, okay. What was it? What's it? Say it again. Don't touch it. Okay. A little bit of technical difficulties here. Sorry. Self-generated. This is Commissioner Bossy. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Commissioner Johnson and for everyone who worked on it this last month. What an amazing thing to bring up to our attention, and some quick positive results from that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So now that Ms. Bossy is in the room, maybe we can head back to our first item, which was the approval of the regular meeting minutes.
Thank you. Just a couple of minor adjustments in the minutes. Where the minutes say Anthony Floyd presented the draft letter to City Council recommending the adoption of 2021 IGCC, IECC, International Plumbing Code, and International Residential Code. Just a slight shift to that, and just adding associated amendments. I did sort of abbreviate in my revision, and I had rewritten this, and I have it in writing here. And it just has the IGCC, IECC, IPC, and IRC, and it just simply adds with associated amendments because we were discussing amendments, to it. So
Okay,
just a
and
clarification.
then the next one,
Do we need to,
or
Do you wanna
just
do it one at a
identify, you
time?
can summarize it
do you want to, okay, take action on that one at a time or together?
together.
Okay. Then the second one was just a slight rewording of the same concept. Previously, it said the commission chose to recommend that Scottsdale require all new drinking fountains, parentheses, 100% be equipped with water bottle filling stations instead of the IGCC recommended 50%. Just a slight clarification, when that word 50% is in front of that, it's a little bit confusing that that's a recommended 50% when it's a required, as I understand it. So just simply slightly reworded to the same concept that says the commission chose to recommend that Scottsdale adopt the IGCC amendment to increase the percentage of indoor drinking fountains equipped with bottle filling stations from 50% to 100%. And then the last one was just on the page 3, it said May at the top instead of June.
Thanks for catching that.
And that's it.
Does anyone have any issues associated with Tammy's amendments?
Chair, this is Tim Connor. The only thing that I received from Anthony was that he wanted to be sure that we did include the IPC, which is the International Plumbing Code.
Yes.
And
Yes, 'cause
whatever
looked at it.
statements were asked.
Yeah, I had, it's right here. Yes,
Yeah.
I read it with IPC and I updated it. Yes, Anthony caught that because my first draft, I had missed IPC.
That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. So unless there are any issues associated with that, I don't see if anybody has their hands up. Then I would recommend that we just go ahead and incorporate that and vote on the minutes themselves as revised by Ms. Bossy.
This is Commissioner Schlosser. I move that we accept the revised minutes from our June meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I have a second. This is Commissioner Coletta.
Thank you, Mr. Coletta. Can we go ahead and have a roll call vote on the minutes?
Certainly. Chair Christmas Lazar,
Approved.
Vice Chair Coletta,
Approved.
Commission Member Abranovich. Is David still on the line? Commission Member Abranovich, I think you're muted still. Do you approve?
Yeah, hey, sorry, I was
it's
having
fine.
trouble finding my mute button. Yeah, I approve.
Thank you, sir. Commission Member Bossy,
Approved.
Commission Member Kukulik,
Approved.
Commission Member Johnson,
Approved. Thank you.
and Commission Member Schlosser.
Approved.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. I do want to recognize that we've had a couple visitors that have joined. I don't know what what is our procedure?
Essentially, Chair, that if they would like to speak on one of the agendized items, there are cards that are here to be filled out. They may fill those out and then we will make sure that they get comments that come forward. We've unfortunately passed our general open public comment period, so we don't have a secondary one, which is something that City Council has. But at the same time, if there is something that they need to voice, I would suggest that they fill out one of the comment cards that are out there and hand it to myself or Mr. Brown.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
So our next item here was item number 3, and it was really discussion of possible commission recommendations to staff on public outreach strategies for sustainability topics currently under consideration by the commission on matters of environmental concern submitted to the city or commission in public forums. And I think that the intent here was really to discuss, public outreach on items that we have already, included in perhaps our work plan. I think we're bringing that up. Next page. Couple pages down, I guess. One more. There you go. So one of our missions that we were discussing previously was the premise of trying to look at public outreach as part of what our duties are. And we have a whole bunch of people that are interested in various topics. And I'm definitely encouraged by everyone's interest. One of the things that we listened to even last meeting was a discussion about some of the water conservation techniques that we heard from Ms. Baumgartner. And I was definitely interested in perhaps taking volunteers to maybe discuss how we can help in some of these public outreach items, maybe with follow-up discussions with our new public information officer over at the water department. And, based on our nice little list here, I think we have a couple people that were very interested in water conservation. So I think that was, I can't see it very well. Maybe it's on the next page. I think that was Miss Bossy. Is that correct? And Mr. Abramovic? And Mr. Kukulik?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if you all might be interested in trying to speak a little bit further with the new public information officer about ways we can help supplement on public outreach.
Yeah, I think that I would be open to making time for that.
Commissioner Vossi, sure, absolutely.
That'd be great.
Tim
Yeah, this is
Connor, staff
one of the-
member.
I can try to do that as well.
Thank you.
I can help to arrange for a meeting with that person. I have not met them yet, but
Oh,
be happy
awesome.
to help that out and go ahead and move that forward.
That would be great. That would be great. When in our conversations with the water department, the premise of just serving as a sounding board is something that we can definitely do. But, if there are ways that we can innovatively think about public outreach, it would be great to, kind of start to brainstorm on that, and specifically helping them in their water conservation programs. I mean, they have a whole set of really wonderful programs, especially rebates, that do some real good, and having any input on that, as well as any additional items that you guys have as your passion, would be very useful to go ahead and speak with her about. In addition to water conservation, we have a couple other items. When we talked with Mr. Corset, he had indicated, as an example, we've used the bees as a way of discussion of kind of getting into this premise of letting the public know a little bit more about some of these important environmental issues. And, we're kind of progressing on that particular front, but there might be other additional items that we want to take on, or approaches that we want to take on. And one that when I spoke with Mr. Corset previously, and I just wanted to bring it up again, I know that I gave a litany of different options in terms of public outreach, but one of the things that the water department does that is very, very effective is they have a water academy. And one of the things that we had brainstormed when I spoke with Mr. Corset was the premise of having a sustainability academy for citizens. And it might be something, I don't know if anybody else has any input on that or interest. Ms. Bossy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ASU actually developed a curriculum for their employees to all take. And so we could potentially look at that to see if that's something that we could adopt, share, amend. That might be a starting point, because that's the purpose of it, was to give sort of a 101 class to all their employees about sustainability. And I remember Mick Dalrymple worked on that quite a bit. It seems like that was like, what, 2 or 3 years ago? Something like that. Time goes by so fast. So that's is something that could be helpful to us. And just quickly, while I have the microphone on the previous conversation, I wonder if anyone knows if we're going to have a Scottsdale Canal convergence, because we could do some water conservation work with that. Does anybody know if that's going to take place?
Yes,
Yes.
this is Tim Connor. Yes, I believe it's going to take place. And we're hoping that it'll be a green event as well. So they've been very much moving towards that as well, and very much a proponent of all the things that we've asked them to do. I will look into finding out what ASU has for that curriculum and see if they will share it with us. I think they will. I know that Phoenix has talked about this as well for all their employees coming in. So basically they would ask them to do a training seminar of about 20 minutes of a video. And then of course it would be used for onboarding when their new people came in to try to build that culture. So I think it's a good idea. I just don't know if we're all there yet, but at the same time, we can look and see whatever other people are doing. I think that'd be fine. With the new position, maybe they'll be able to take that up and
Definitely.
carry it forward.
Mr. Schlosser, you have your hand up?
Yes, although it's not about the water conservation. It has to do with one of the other topics that I was interested in, which was trying to minimize carbon footprint. And I remember that last month we were told that the solid waste, or at least in their monthly insert in the bills, the solid waste department is going to be changing the schedule for trash pickup to recognize that the density population in Scottsdale has changed. And I was wondering two things. One, whether or not the new routes have been evaluated for minimizing the amount of travel time so that we could lower our carbon footprint from the collection of solid waste. But additionally, and this was an idea I just had, so it is without any forethought, is that Google Maps allows you to put in a number of destinations, and then you can, by manipulating where you go, minimize the amount of travel in terms of distance and time, which would translate to minimizing the carbon footprint for making that travel. And I was wondering, and I'm just putting this out there to staff, whether or not it would be possible for the city of Scottsdale to take the Google Maps idea, it's right now manual, but perhaps we could talk with the group at ASU and see if we can offer an app on the website that would allow you to put in a number of locations, and then that app would automatically give you the shortest distance, the least amount of travel to accomplish those tasks. And that might be something that people might access if they have a lot of chores to do. So when we think about carbon footprint, sometimes you have to think, in very small increments. But if we could increase the efficiency of personal travel within the city, or increase the efficiency of city travel within the city, we would be able to reduce the carbon footprint that we currently experience. So I'm just putting that out there as an idea for someone to possibly investigate. Maybe our IT people have some experience with artificial intelligence for making that kind of decision tree that would minimize trips within the city by using existing applications that allow us to do that. So I was just and that would be something where we could reach out to the public about, you can lower your carbon footprint, save on gasoline, save time by using this app on the website. Put in the points you want to travel to, and the website will calculate the most efficient path that you can take to accomplish those things. Just a thought.
Thanks so much. Mr. Brown, you have your hand?
Commissioner Steve, this is Sam. I will follow up on this, but I'm pretty sure solid waste in particular has software and route planning to literally minimize the amount of vehicle miles traveled per vehicle. It's highly incentivized from a fuel and labor expenditure perspective. But I will follow up on that. And I think it's a very finely tuned process on that as far as routes and schedules and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Connor, you have a hand up.
Yes, this is Tim Connor. There is another program that we're working on right now with our transit people. Essentially, what we've been doing lately is having them go all the way to the Southern Corporation Yard and fueling and then running their routes. We're going to place them at the North Corporation Yard here shortly. And I believe that there's going to be substantial savings on fuel as well as carbon footprinting. So for the city's operations, I think that we are definitely cognizant of what we're trying to do and accomplish. For the public, I'm not sure that we are the appropriate group to do an application that would be on your phone for that. I think that Google Maps does a pretty good job, but there's probably some other software out there that we would rely on other than having the city develop it.
It is an interesting idea from the standpoint of trying to make people aware of some resources. It could be another article for Sustainable Scottsdale. I mean, it is possible that if that was something that we wanted to get behind and provide resources, again, in it's not something that the city would develop, but definitely point them to, hey, what is your carbon footprint, and how does city residents in Scottsdale compare to other places, and really try to have an article about that might be something that would be of interest to people.
I agree, and I'll do what we can and do some just basic searches to see if there are other softwares that are out there that people could utilize. But yes, I think that those are going to be things that too we'll be discussing when we work on our sustainability plan. So we'll talk to that later. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have their hand up? I can't see. There were any other ideas that we wanted to discuss for purposes of public participation? I'm not seeing any right at the moment. I do like the idea of highlighting Canal Convergence and their green event. And I think it would be exciting to have basically some recognition by our group of that event and promoting that event and promoting the green portions of that event. I don't know the best ways to do that, Mr. Connor.
Yes, this is Tim Connor again. Recently, we're all members of the Arizona Forward group, and I reached out to the arts group to say, are you willing to submit anything for the Environmental Excellence Awards, which are coming up in October? And they did submit a project that was about canal convergence. It was about the recycling efforts that they did and the artistic way that they did it. I'll be happy to share that out with everyone so that everyone in the commission can see it. I have no idea where it's going to go or how it's going to be jurred, but at the same time, I think that it's the best submission we've seen for us, at least this year, for sustainability. So
Is there a way to, I guess, attend in more of an official capacity and maybe have a highlighted segment somehow of our commissioners attending and maybe picking up trash or doing whatever it is, something that would be fun that we could kind of highlight some of the portions of Canal Convergence.
I'd be happy to reach out to them and say, is there some way that we can support you? And I think that would be helpful because we're still trying to get that green events idea off the ground with our special events people. And showing participation, I think, would be a great support for moving that forward. I know that Brent Stockwell is very interested in making sure that we keep that moving out. And that's probably our best chance of a good event that we can promote other than the Phoenix Open. That would be a very good green event. So it would be a start.
Ms. Bossy?
Thank you, Chair. I just happened to have participated in a conversation, again, I think it was 3 years ago, in my capacity as events chair at the time for Green Chamber. And we met with the staff at the time because they were of the Canal Convergence, and they were looking for ideas about how to green up the event, of which they incorporated quite a bit. And I'm wondering if maybe we could, if we could have someone who is organizing that come and speak to the group, and we can figure out a way that we can help them think through any other ideas of greening the event up, because they were very interested in doing it. And we're working diligently to try to do that. So I think it might be a good conversation to have either at the meeting or in between the meeting, and then report back whatever is most appropriate.
Yes, in either format, this is Tim Connor again, either format, I'd be happy to try to facilitate some type of meeting with the public arts people. I have not met the public arts director, but I've had correspondence with her through email, and it will give me an opportunity to maybe get more engaged with them as well. So, but I think that maybe the right thing to do would be to do something of the nature of a small group. I can't say committee or subcommittee, but a small group of volunteers of the commission that might want to meet with them. And we'll start with that. And then if they feel so inclined, they can come out and present to us as well.
That would be great.
Okay.
So since I'm part of the water group in our 2021 plan, I'll certainly raise my hand for that.
Okay. I would definitely be interested as well.
Very good. Thank you.
So if we don't have any additional comments on public outreach at this particular time, I definitely still want to engage commissioners to think about, novel ways to promote sustainability and some of the activities that we're doing as a commission, and think about public outreach. So as we talk about this in upcoming meetings, please be prepared to bring up additional ideas. Our next item on the agenda were staff updates, and we have a big one here with Mr. Connor, an update on the from ASU.
Chair, I believe Commissioner Bossy has some other.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
Just a fun comment that one of the things they incorporated was the recycled beer, right? Oh, take it off. Because we did that. They had several breweries, that were focusing on making beer with recycled beer. So it really does, behooves us to have these conversations to see what kinds of good water saving ideas we can come up with. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
That's correct. That was the first recycled water project that we've had in this area. So excellent. Okay. Yes, let me move through a few things that I have. Sam, can you pull up the item on yes, there we go, the map. We've been working, of course, with ASU for the past year on the heat island effect work that they've been looking at. This is kind of the public face that you're going to see that's going to be on our website, as well as the full report. I don't know if you've had a chance yet. I'd sent out to everyone a link to this site. This is what they call a story map. And I'm not sure if I can do that from here, but let me see. There we go. Okay. But essentially, it's going to be something that the public can scroll through and get different information regarding what an urban heat island is. Yeah, this is not going to work completely from here, but let me keep working on it. Also, the health issues that you come into. And as you can see, it's somewhat animated, so it gives people a chance to go ahead and scroll through and enjoy what they're reading, as well as not just static data, I think is kind of the idea behind this. It does move on to different points of the plan as far as talking. I'm sorry, it's probably getting everybody sick, but basically showing the different things that the ASU is looking at, how they analyze data, this is a real quick shot of some of the heat readings that were done through satellite watching and things of that nature. This map will be more available to people to expand it and contract it than what it is in this one piece that we have today. And so I've been working with them saying, we've got to make it so that it's easy for people to understand, and they're going to do that. It's showing cool examples, hot examples of where things are in our city. I've asked them to try to give us a little bit more on the plan, at least some of the different coordinates of where they're at, so that people can reference what streets they're looking at and kind of where they're at in the city. Because as planners, it's very easy for us to say, oh, I know where that's at. But for the general public, it's very hard to understand that from an aerial perspective. Also, this is where it says, now it's your turn. This map will become something that's more interactive, that will allow you to go in and look at different pieces of the city. You can find your house, try to understand what the temperatures are around that and things of that nature, at least from the land surface temperature perspective. One of the things that we did, of course, was to not so much isolate, but to pinpoint some of the areas that we knew were going to be very hot in the future because of the development patterns that we're planning for. That would be the Air Park area, which is this representation, Old Town, and the Southern Scottsdale area, which is essentially the South Scottsdale Road from Old Town and the McDowell Road corridors and the adjacent properties. We believe that's where the largest parts of development are going to happen, and they're happening today. If you look out there, we wish we'd had a little bit better jump on it. But I think you'll find this, if you'll take some time, like I said, I've sent the link out to everyone. Take a look at this. These were helicopter shots that we actually had to go up and shoot, which was an interesting option that we had with ASU, trying to look at different things. And I've asked them to at least come back in and pull in. If you'll look, there's a slide bar here that should be showing you what temperatures are. And in this case, the blues are the coolest and the yellows are the hottest. So, but at the same time, it's hard to do that just intuitively. They also went out with, oh, and there's a survey at the end, I'm sorry. They also went out with what's called a Marty cart. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's an interesting device. It basically measures radiant temperature as a human being would feel if you're in that area. And so we had them go out to several different parts of the city, the waterfront, Old Town. We had them go out to the promenade out in the Air Park area. And I'm trying to remember where else it went, but it basically was able to capture those different readings and talk about whether it was in shade or whether it was in just out in the public and open. So I think if you'll take some time and kind of cruise through this, you'll enjoy it. The other plan that you've been provided has more of the detail. There's an even more technical version that's coming out that you'll receive later. It's volume 2 of the plan. What I've provided to you all is volume 1. And it's a draft. We still have some things to add to it because they're still taking measurements right now in Indian Bend Wash and the surrounding neighborhoods, as well as some of the other data that they're trying to compile. So please take a look at it. They're going to be presenting to us. Unfortunately, I think it may be virtual. I'm just not sure yet because David Handula, who's the lead climatologist that's been working on this, he's a PhD and a professor, associate professor. He's going to be in New Jersey when we're meeting the next time. But at the same time, he offered to either bring in somebody from the group, which might be Jenny Vanos, who is a PhD as well, who's done a lot of the work with the Marty cart and that kind of information. Or he would also do a virtual. We may do both, is what I'm going to talk with him about. But eventually what we're trying to do is to bring this plan to the city council. We're going to take it to them in a study session on September the 21st. So unfortunately, your meeting has been pushed past that for September. because of Yom Kippur. If you would like to do anything, I think August, you can make some recommendations, but that's why I tried to provide you with the information in advance so that you can all absorb the information, come up with your ideas, your comments, and provide those to ASU directly. And if you can provide those to me before, I will get them to them before so that they will be ready to respond.
So this will be agendized in our August meeting,
Correct.
and we will be able to review the information that you've provided and provide any comments in advance and discuss
Correct.
during the August meeting.
Correct. And also make recommendations if you feel so to do. It doesn't mean you have to. I mean, what we're planning to do with the city council is to bring this forward and say, this is a component of the larger sustainability plan. And we just wanted to let you know, this is what we were up to last year with this intergovernmental agreement that you all signed, and say that I think we've made some good progress. It's just a matter of now saying, how does this fit in with the rest of the things that we're doing? Because if you think of the strategic solid waste and recycling plan, that's another component that's going to have to be folded in somehow into the larger sustainability plan. So these are all kind of sidebar components that need to somehow fit together with whatever it is our final sustainability plan comes out to be. And that was the next part I was going to talk to. So I'm going to segue, if you will. We have agreed to a scope of services with the ASU Walton Group for the sustainability plan for the next year. And we are intending to complete a sustainability plan draft by June the 30th of 2022. And from that point, we'll take it through city council again, but at the same time, we'll be going out to the public for the next 6 months, trying to gather more input from the public and what their feelings are about it. And hopefully by the end of 2022, early 2023, we'll be able to have approval of a plan that's actually something that will say, this is our sustainability plan and this is where we're going. There'll be opportunities for this commission to provide input through workshops. And also I've arranged to make sure through the scope that they'll be updating you at certain key points, and you'll be able to provide input directly to the ASU group that's doing this work. One of the things I wanted to highlight is that I'm very happy to admit that we have joined ICLEI, which is, I'm not sure if you're all aware of what ICLEI is, but it's a group that basically does a lot of outreach as far as carbon neutralization, those types of things, as far as sustainability planning goes. Right now, there are 5 of us working in a cohort on sustainability planning through ICLEI. And we're understanding the process of what they think you need to do with the sustainability plan, how to get there. And one of the people that is working with us through ASU is one of the founders of ICLEI. So we feel fairly confident that we'll have a pretty good process going through this, and we've made sure that they've included that in the contract. So I'm hoping that will be something that you all will be pleased with and find at least something that you can give input to and provide us with great ideas on where to go. So
I know we had an overview of the basis of the plan for the sustainability.
Right.
Are we going to be able to have that on an agenda item soon to just kind of review what you have finalized in terms of your scope? Or
I think what I will do is just send it out to the commission because
Okay.
we've already signed it. We've inked it. It's already
It's there.
done. So, but you know, along the way, we have one more year with that intergovernmental agreement at the minimum. If the city manager so decides we could extend that, that'd be great, because there are things that we're going to find that we would like to do that we are going to run that 3 years out really quick. So I know one of the things that this commission's excited about is a tree and shade plan. We're hoping that there will be time to do some of that, but at the same time, there's going to need to be a understanding and reorganization of staffing and who's going to be our new woodland forester, things of that nature. So if that's something that we do decide to do, it's going to take some strategy. And I think that at least we have at least this next 2 years to come up with those strategies and work through it. At least the first year for sure. We'll have that during the sustainability planning period.
Tim, Tim.
Thanks
this
for that.
is,
I have Mr. Schlosser.
Yeah, I actually went through that handout that you sent, which I thought was actually very brilliant. One of the things that came out as they were looking at the three hottest areas, the airport or air park area, the Scottsdale corridor, and the Old Town, was how many, the percentage of ground covered by trees, which in these very hot areas is very, very little. And I believe one of the commenters said that we really have to think about this because it's not just simply plant a tree. We have to water the tree. It's not as simple as just putting in, a plant. But one of the other things that I'd like ASU to investigate are what kind of passive shading options might be available. Triangular, sunshades, ropes, anything that casts a shadow.
Chair,
will
I have
help.
to interrupt this. I'm sorry, but this is not an agendized item for discussion. Steve, I appreciate your comments and I understand that. If you would please send those to me, that would be
Okay.
helpful. But tonight in our meeting, we do not have this agendized as an item to discuss. So I'm
Okay.
sorry. But
thought
I agree.
it
I
was-
understand your comments. I understand your comments.
I thought it was just relative to the presentation that you had sent and within the discussions within it. But I have no problems in sending you my thoughts independently and moving on.
Thank you very much. And that's what I'm asking the commission to do. If possible, if you can send me comments prior to the next meeting, possibly at least a week in advance, I will get those to ASU. And that way they'll have those in advance also to consider. So unfortunately, the timing of this when it came out was something that Assistant City Manager Stockwell and I decided that we would just pull it up and give it to you, let you have it in advance, and we'll work through that in the future. But I just wanted to make sure that you understood what we handed out. So thank you, Steve. I appreciate that, sir.
Thanks so much. And we will have the opportunity to discuss it more fully at our next meeting. Ms. Bossy?
Just wanted to note that what Tim was just talking about with joining ECLI and the agreement for the sustainability plan, that could be news. We're looking for news ideas for the
You
public
mean the
information.
sustainability
Yeah.
planning?
Well, and joining the ECLI
Okay, yeah.
group. I mean, that's exciting. Thank you.
The other issue that I had, I wanted to raise, and I've laid this out to all the people that are here tonight, and I will send it out to everyone electronically if I haven't, is that we are going through our sunset audit period. It's a standardized period. It's something that became valid during 2011. We've been through it twice already. I would not be concerned about it. But if there are things that the commission would like to submit for other informational items to the auditor and the audit committee, I can provide that opportunity. I think the deadline is shown on the document that I sent out to everyone. It's sometime in September that I would have to have it. The audit commission is meeting in October. They say that really you don't have to be there, but if you'd like to, that's fine.
I'll plan to be there.
Okay, I'll make sure that you have the right date and time, and I've found out in the past where they've changed the date and time on me a couple of times, so I didn't know until I got there. But we'll make sure that you were up to date when we're doing that.
Thanks.
Mhm.
And again, if anyone else has additional items that we want to actually put together and provide to the Sunset Commission,
Yes.
we need to make certain that we get that to Tim in reference to his email. He gave us a due date, I'm pretty certain.
Correct. And I guess if I was going to submit anything, it would be maybe possibly some of the memos or emails that were sent to council as recommendations. I would think that would be appropriate if that's something you'd like to do. It just shows activity that you guys
Definitely.
are doing what you're doing. So
I think that's a good idea.
the other two things that I have, because I'm filling in for Brent and Anthony. Anthony's on vacation. Good for him.
Just before you leave
Yes.
the audit.
Sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bossett.
Thank you. I was at the audit, the Sunset meeting last time, and we had prepared sort of a recap of the things that we've been doing and had submitted that. I'd have to go back in my memory banks of what that was, but that was part of our meetings, and we actually had something a little bit more formalized.
That's fine.
time.
If the commission would want to do that,
So
that's
I just-
fine. I just will let you know that they'll be very quick about what they read and what they'll do. It's not, I think that this commission is very safe as far as doing what they're proposed to do and being active. I think you all have done that and they'll recognize that. So,
We should probably agendize it.
okay, I will do that for the next
Yeah,
meeting.
thank you.
Sam, will take that note that we'll agendize that for the next meeting.
Sounds good.
This
The
is
last-
Commissioner Schlosser. I think active would be the understatement. If you probably take a look, I think hyperactive is probably more appropriate. I mean, I don't think any other commission involved other than the planning commission has as much activity as we have going on, including, as I recall, at one of the meetings that we were one of the only commissions in which every commission member attended every meeting over the last 12 or 18 months. So we're, if anything is to be sunsetted, it isn't us.
We have some passion. We definitely have some passion.
Definitely.
So-
I've got one or two more things to say.
Yes, please.
Because Brent's out, I wanted to fill you in. We have not had a meeting of our steering committee for sustainability because we decided to push that out until August. They will be receiving the first presentation from ASU at August the 5th, which is our first meeting. And that will be just prior to your meeting where we'll give you the presentation from ASU as well. The other thing is that working with Aaron and Brent have been working with our human resources department to develop and to approve the new position coming out. I believe the title is going to be, let me look and see if I got this right, Sustainability Program Director. So they do not have supervision over any employees, but they do have the ability to network throughout the entire area. So that's one of the things that Brendan had decided is that he did not want them to have the responsibility of supervision. So, but that is coming out. I've offered up the USDN group and ICLEI. I've spoken with at least ICLEI so far. They said, yes, please give us that information. We'll put it on our boards and we'll make sure that it gets out there. Also, the Sustainable Cities Network is willing to help us post that. So we'll make sure that it's at least out in the area of the right realm that we're trying to get. So
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Did you have anything further from Anthony's group?
No, the only thing is that simply he has put the webinar system to rest and through the summer. He'll bring it back up in the fall.
Okay,
So that was about it.
thanks for that.
Mhm.
Yes, Ms. Bossy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick clarification. What do we think the timing is on the position? Tim?
I'm not sure. I have not
No.
even seen the position's final iteration. I had Aaron copy me on an email to the human resource director who's working on it. But I would assume that's going to be probably at least a month or so out in the public to get the right
Yeah.
input they're hoping for.
Do we have any input on the job description? Dare I ask?
We had,
Would be an additional-
we had that as an item previously. Did you have additional feedback?
Well, just have to, I guess,
If you have to have additional
Yeah,
feedback,
just
make
send it.
certain you get that to
Okay.
Mr. Stockwell.
thank you.
And unfortunately, Mr. Stockwell's at a ICMA conference right now. He'll be out for the rest of the week. And I think he returns sometime around the 3rd or 4th of August because he's going to go ahead and parlay that with vacation. When the council's out, the big guys go out too. So it's just the way it works.
And one last question, not that we can do anything about it at this point, but obviously we had all had aspirations of the position reporting at the city manager level. Which is not the case, but what in a practical sense, what does that mean? Where does this in the hierarchy? It's like second down, second one,
The
third?
position at this time is to report to Aaron Perot, who's the director, planning area
Planning.
director
So,
for long range planning,
Yeah,
which I report to as well.
but you do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's sort of, okay, thank you. We did talk about that some, I remember before, but I just needed to get some clarity on that. Thank you.
I
Thanks
think
for
that's
that.
great, Tim. I think it's great that they chose a director title. A lot of people get hung up on that, so I think that's great. So, it sounds like a great position. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Kuklik.
I think we're making progress. Can always ask for more, but you got to get it, got to get in the door.
Yep.
So I think the next item on our agenda really is to review our anticipated items for the next commission agenda. And so we know that ASU is coming, and they will be giving us an update on the work that they've been doing. We also want to go ahead and make certain we continue to have the pollinator discussion, because that's a continuing item. And I would like to keep the public outreach as a continuing item. And we've talked about the Sunset Commission as an item. And then I think that you sent out another email recently, and I knew I wanted to bring it up, and it was about the general plan.
Essentially, the general plan is scheduled to go to ballot on November, the first week in November, Tuesday in November.
And we can, I think, as individuals, post or provide input as a commission as pro or con in the statement. That is correct, based on discussions.
Actually, you can post anything you would like as a citizen. And you can reference that you are a member of a commission, but you cannot say that the commission has recommended this. That's where we have to draw the line. So I will try to find that email that came out from communications and make sure everybody receives it again. So
Okay.
It was sent to us on the 19th.
So there's no further action that we can take as a commission.
not as a public body, no.
Got
In
it.
fact, we should not be involved in that at all.
Okay, good to know. All right. Do we have additional items that we wanted to add to the agenda?
Potentially the water. since
Water
we're supposed to
conservation?
be trying to have a meeting. If it'll
Yeah.
happen that quickly, I'm not sure, but that's what the goal will be.
That would,
The water, we had talked about having, trying to meet with the new PIO officer at the water department.
Water, yes. Like I said, I was going to try to prepare a meeting for that. And then if there's a chance that we can have them attend, that's fine.
well, it could just be an update on
Right.
the,
That's probably the better way to go, I think, because this position's new. I hate to stress them out too much at first.
definitely.
They're walking into a firing range anyway because of the drought, so it's going to be tough for them. But
I
yeah,
think that would be great to have an update. And I would like to even consider the canal convergence
okay.
as
Yeah.
well. Was there any other items? I think that definitely is gives us enough things to discuss.
I agree because I think that the ASU piece is going to take us at least half an hour, 45 minutes at least.
Definitely. And I think some of these items are just going to be updates.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if there are no other additional items to discuss, I don't see any hands. Can we go ahead and move to adjourn, or can I just do that?
You can just adjourn if you like.
But,
Oh, wait, I'm
one more
sorry.
thing. The work plan, is that an ongoing thing?
It is,
The
it
work
is,
plan update,
we can identify that as an item to discuss at next
probably just to stay on
meeting.
top of it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yes. So if we want to add the work plan update, that would be great.
I got it.
So then I will go ahead and call this meeting to a close. It's 6:40 and we are adjourned. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.